Welcome to Asthma Kinetics and Dynamics. We are going to start out by talking about the demographics of asthma, some unusual kind of grouping of facts about asthma that will lead us to looking at the pharmacogenomics and genetics of asthma treatment. And we'll talk specifically about the drug targets used that we use beta agonists for, so obviously the beta 2 receptors, the corticosteroid receptors, and leukotriene inhibitors to look at the genomics of these to help explain drug response and the heterogeneity of drug response that we see with asthma treatment. Finally, we're going to talk about theophylline. Theophylline is a drug that isn't used as much for asthma anymore, but it's a really good example of a one-compartment linear model for pharmacokinetics. So we're going to practice a little bit with theophylline just to get you in the groove of how you basic approaches to dosing. Okay, so here's some facts about asthma. African Americans are 3 to 4 times more likely than Caucasian Americans to be hospitalized for asthma. Now, why would this be? You couple that with African Americans being 4 to 6 times more likely to die from asthma than other races. Wow, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to be hospitalized and 4 to 6 times more likely to die from asthma than other genetic groups. Why would this be? Also, asthma attack rates are higher in adult women, kids, and again, African Americans. We know there's a big inter-patient variability in response to treatment. What that means is that we can give the same drug in the same dose to lots of different people, and we're going to have a lot of differences between patients. So a lot of inter-patient variability in response. We think that 60 to 80% of that difference in response can be explained by genetic variation between patients. So that's pretty interesting. So we're going to dig a little bit more into that. First of all, what is genomics? Genomics is the study of genomics is looking at the contribution of genetic variation to the heterogeneity of drug response. So we know that there's a large variety in drug response. So it's very heterogeneous. So we need to then if we're looking at genomics, it looks at what is the genetic contribution to that heterogeneity. Again, with drug response, we can have the same drug and the same dose. Some patients will have an adequate response, therapeutic response. Some patients will have an inadequate response or poor or no response. And then finally, we might have some patients that are toxic with the same dose and the same drug. Why would this be? Well, could it be the genetic makeup of the patient? What are genetics versus genomics? I'll tell you, I interchange them. I am not very careful about using them differently, but genetics is usually when you're looking at a single gene or a gene site, a single site on the gene, looking at a polymorphism at a single gene is genetics, versus genomics is looking at the whole genome. So they're a little bit different, but again, I think most people use them interchangeably, except for probably the people that work with it all the time. So the goal is to use genetic information to improve individualized therapy for patients. There was a cartoon I used to have, which I lost somewhere, which I'm sure you would find that shocking if you've ever been to my office, but it showed a pharmacist or a patient coming up to a pharmacy counter, handing them their prescription and their genetic code, which I don't think we're too far away from that. It's going to become more and more part of practice that there may be some drugs or some therapies that we just don't give to certain people because they don't have the enzyme that's needed to metabolize the drug, or we know that they're just not likely to respond to the drug because of the gene that encodes the receptor that we're looking for. So we're going to talk about that here in the next couple of videos here. The three targets we're going to talk about mostly are the beta agonist, the beta 2 receptors, which we target with beta agonists. Some of the anti-inflammatory things that the corticosteroids would target. And leukotriene inhibitors are used, as you probably know by now, to inhibit the formation of cysteine-like leukotrienes, which cause a cascade of symptoms that we see in asthma. So if we can inhibit that from being formed, then we may avoid the symptomatology. We can inhibit that by inhibiting an enzyme called 5-lipoxygenase, which is zoluten, or we can have a leukotriene receptor antagonist like montelukast or zofrulacast or these other really fun drugs to say that sound very German to me for some reason. Okay, so we're going to talk about beta agonists, corticosteroids, and leukotriene inhibitors. Okay, in the next video, we're going to talk about beta agonists. So tune in for the next one. Thank you. Bye.